Good morning, Eddie. What's the latest on Tino Livramento, please, and the injury he sustained last weekend?
Yeah, with Tino, he went for a scan initially. We don't think it's a bad injury. Wait and see whether he'll play again this season. He's due to have another scan at the weekend to determine the full extent of his timeout.
There's never a good time to be injured, but with the World Cup coming up and an important end of season for you, and the fact this is, I think, his fourth separate absence this season, how is he in himself? Because it's clearly been a tough and frustrating year for him in some respects.
Yeah, I think Tino's a very level-headed, very stable mentally. I think he's had a frustrating season. Such a good season last year. He was outstanding, was fit and available, and really contributed to what we delivered. This year's been different. I mean, that's just the life of a footballer, I'm afraid. He's never been able to get that run of games to really find his best form. He's an outstanding player, and we just hope that he has a better run around the corner.
And what are the chances of you having Anthony Gordon available at Arsenal this weekend?
Yeah, Anthony won't make the game. Hasn't trained this week. Again, not a serious injury, but not in time for this game. Hopefully the next one.
Thank you. Eddie, this team's done some amazing things over the years. Is there a little bit of a concern, and I suppose how difficult is it to consider that if this sort of form continues until the end of the season, it might just leave a little bit of a stain on that team and some of the players' performances over the last few years?
Yeah, we're all feeling that pain at the moment. You know, it's been a difficult period for us. I think we're very determined to try and put that right. We're very determined to try and win as many games as we can. Prided ourselves on, historically, even if we lose a game, fighting to the end, giving everything to try and get a result. I feel the players are currently at the moment maybe lacking in a little bit of confidence. We've lost a little bit of our normal, regular flow and rhythm that we've had in historical times. There's only one way to refine that, though, and that's through, in my opinion, hard work, really good period of training, players staying very stable mentally and seeing it for what it is, and just trying to rediscover and enjoy their football and try and find their best form again.
You mentioned the confidence there. Does the prospect of Arsenal away, who are obviously going for the title themselves, you guys in poor form, in many ways, does it represent a good opportunity for you? I don't want to use the word free hit, but a game that I suppose you're not expected to go and win.
Yeah, I think definitely an opportunity for us, because I think the next game is always an opportunity to, whatever moment you're in, to prove yourselves all over again, most importantly to ourselves. That we owe it to everybody connected with the club, to ourselves, to commit everything that we have to try and get a result. As we did, very recently at Chelsea. I think we can take a lot from that game in terms of our attitude and how we played and the endeavour, the spirit we showed, the togetherness we showed. It was only a few games ago, very, very recent. So when you're in a difficult run, it can seem like you've been in that for a long, long period of time. And probably with the international break and the big length of gap we had between games, it's felt that way for us. But in terms of games, that was very recent. And then we beat Manchester United with 10 men. So I think we have to tap into those games where we perform really well.
Can I ask you on Nick? I know you answer a lot of questions about him, but it just does feel quite an unusual situation there. With him, the fact that he's not started for a while, is it a form issue, or is it a fitness issue? Because I think there was a general feeling that sort of after the Barcelona and Sunderland games, he might have come in and played a little bit more, and he hasn't. What is the situation there that he's not played so much then?
Well, I think it's difficult because actually our centre forwards have been productive for us. So Anthony Gordon played up front, and in those games that I mentioned, Chelsea, Sunderland, he was scoring as the number 9, and now Will Asula's come in and he scored as the number 9. So it's difficult. You have to reward players for what they deliver. And at the moment, I've gone with a different option to Nick. So there's no problem on his fitness. Obviously, when he plays, he has to do the same and try and deliver the goals that we need.
Thank you. Andy? Well, Eddie, we spoke to Kieran Trippier yesterday, and he said he wants to finish on a high for the players, the supporters, but he said most importantly, the manager. How much do you value that, and how much have you seen that from all the squad? this week?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of a little bit hesitant to say, because I've been saying it for the last 2 weeks, that I feel we've trained well this week. So I feel that since we've come back to full training, which has been after the Sunderland game, we had a week before Crystal Palace with the whole group for the first time since August, and I've been pleased. I was pleased going into Palace and we didn't perform. I was pleased going into Bournemouth and we didn't perform. Been pleased this week, but I'm hoping that we see the fruits of our labour. We see a much better, coherent performance than we have. So I think the spirit in the group's good, although it's, of course, not the same as when you're winning. That's clear. There's been challenges for us, but I don't see a group that is in any way switched off and not ready to play. I see a group that knows what it means to play for this club, that's hurting with the results. And we know we need to perform, and we need to perform most of all for our supporters.
I saw a stat the other day, how many times Newcastle have either won or lost by a single goal margin so far this season. I think it's something like 9. Do you kind of take that as a positive in the fact that, it's very, very close margins, I suppose you could describe it as, or is it incredibly frustrating?
Yeah, a bit of both. I think there's been so many games where we've been leading by a goal and we've had an opportunity to double that lead, and I think that would have made all the difference. We haven't been clinical in that moment, and then we haven't been clinical with our defending the other end, and I think we've ended up with some really tough defeats that we haven't necessarily deserved. But it's happened too many times for it to be an accident. So, of course, there's things that we have to improve. There's things that we're continually working on behind the scenes to try and improve those narrow defeats, which I think previous seasons have been narrow victories for us. And it's those swing of those games that have really hurt us this year. So I don't think we're far away. But there's only one way to sort of answer that question, and that's to actually grind out a tight win, and then hopefully we can build from there.
Just into the last 5 games, a 5 out of 5 wins out of 5 games needed for Europe, would you say?
5 wins out of 5 are needed for ourselves, are needed for the club, are needed for everybody. So I don't think we're looking at it sort of as a for Europe. I think we're looking at it, we need to win a game. First step is win a game and then try and win another one, and that's what we'll try to do.
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
Just to build off one of Keith's questions, is it quite a good time to be visiting the Emirates, given how much pressure they'll be under and how toxic it can become there if you get off to a good start?
I think from our perspective, we're just looking at ourselves, and I think we're looking at, of course, how we prepare and plan the game, but we're looking at our intent, our attitude, everything that, people will be looking closely at us at the moment, and rightly so. And we need to give the right answers, and we need to give the right feeling in terms of how we're conducting ourselves in these moments, which is where I think you're truly judged. We need to show really good strength of character. We're looking for a massive performance. I think we can produce our very best level, and I think you've seen that throughout this season. Invariably, we've won, or we've taken teams very close. So we're just focusing on our performance.
In the reverse fixture back in September, you had Jacob Murphy, Nick Voltemade and Anthony Gordon starting, all of whom didn't start the weekend just gone. Has it been quite hard, given the inability to have like a stable front line this season? Has that kind of cost you?
It's been difficult this year. We're never going to have a stable team because of the amount of games we've played. So we're always going to be, with the run that we had playing every 3 games, there's always going to be a sort of a state of rotation, because very, very difficult to play the same players continually. But I think that was healthy for us at sort of stages through the season, because everyone was involved, everyone was playing a big part in our success. Now we're in a different moment in our season. We're playing week to week. We can potentially have a more stable team, but we haven't performed to the best level. So I'm searching for, to a degree, players that want to step up and play every week by performing at their best levels.
And just finally for me, one of them forward players that have been playing a lot recently is Anthony Elanga. He was getting a bit of stick at the weekend, and he seemed frustrated when he came off. How's he handling the pressure that he's under at the minute?
Yeah, I think Ant's handled everything that he's faced this season with real integrity. I think he's a brilliant professional. He's someone that really works hard at his game. He's very level-headed. We don't see too many sort of extreme outbursts of emotion from Ant through the season. I think he will continue, in my opinion, to improve, to get better. I think he's got so much potential. We really believe in him. He's got outstanding qualities. Hopefully he can finish the season strongly.
Hi, Eddie. One of the things that's characterised your team over the last 3.5 years is the intensity you've played with and the way you've bullied teams. And that you don't seem to have been able to replicate that consistently this season. Is that down to schedule? Is it down to personnel? Is it a conscious choice?
Certainly not a conscious choice, Damien, I can assure you of that. No, I said, I think last week, the intensity side, the physicality of our game hasn't changed in our preparation of what we want to deliver. Certainly, I think the game schedule impacted our ability to really deliver that to its highest level throughout the season, but we were still getting results and we were still able to win games, in part, I think, because of that. Certainly, for me, the team always performs in line with the individuals within it. I think we have lost a little bit of our experience. We've lost a little bit of our know-how. The dual aspect, we certainly haven't performed as well as we have in previous seasons. So they're things that we're fully aware of. Sort of our hallmark in previous seasons was that, and we need to retain that, I think, to be successful.
Morning, Eddie. It was 3 years ago in January that you went to Arsenal for a 0-0 draw, and it was a real sort of coming-of-age performance. You were third, they were top. It felt like the night you almost announced yourselves as competing there. I realise this might be a bite-sized answer for a much longer subject, but how has the club and the team found themselves where they are now going into this fixture, and how do they get back to where it felt like you were going at the time in 2023?
That's quite a deep one, Craig, like to answer that, because obviously talking over a long period of time, I don't know whether it's worth me sort of going back historically to sort of where we are now. I can only talk really in the last few weeks. I think going back to an earlier question that I was asked, I think we've lost a little bit of confidence. I think that was clear on Saturday against Bournemouth. I think with the recent results we've had and just the way that things have fallen against us, players aren't playing to their maximum level. You can see that we've got some very, very good players within the squad that are underperforming. And you can't put a sort of a figure on how much confidence can damage, the individual. So I think my job this week has been to support the players, to help the players, obviously hopefully deliver some good work for them, and then to try and help them figure out how we can get back individually and collectively to our best levels, because I think everything falls back to the results and what we deliver on the pitch, because I think the club will move forward. I've said that time and time again. The off-the-pitch stuff will take care of itself, but on the pitch we have to be trying to continue the good momentum that we've had over previous seasons. We've fought it a little bit late, but that's the challenge.
Chris Wolf. Morning, Eddie. Sort of following on from Damien's question earlier, you said a couple of times this season that when you've seen the team on the pitch, it hasn't necessarily been the identity you would identify with your Newcastle side. That was clearly identifiable before. Moving forward, what do you want the identity to be? What do you see the identity of your side progressing into?
Yeah, well, I think when you see that, whatever you work on during the week, whatever your tactical plan is, you want to see that replicated on the pitch. And I have to say, the players, the majority of the time since I've been here, difficult to put a number on it, but say 90%, I think we've seen that. I've been very proud of what we've delivered. Very proud of how the players have tried to interpret our ideas and our work onto the pitch. Time and time again, I've stood as a very proud man on the touchline going, well done, lads. That's not easy to implement, and you've done it. Of late, of course, that's not been there. But then you go, why has it not been there? And I think there's been a whole host of reasons that I won't, and there's no point, as I've said previously, I think I said this last week, there's no point me highlighting those because people will view them as excuses, and I don't want to go down that road. We have to find ways to get the players to respond better to us currently. I'm 100% confident they will, and they're trying. But we're just in a tough spot at the minute.
Thank you. Jordan?
Tyree, is Bruno fit enough to start tomorrow? And if so, how sort of game-changing would his return be?
He's had a full week of training and he's trained really well. I've been very pleased with him. It's been tough for him. I think you could see against Bournemouth he came on with all the right intentions to deliver a really good physical performance, but you could see that he was struggling at times physically to adapt to the pace because it really had minimal training. But he was playing on heart and spirit and determination, but the week he's had this week will serve him really well. He's such an important player for us on so many levels that, of course, we're keen to get him on the pitch as quickly as possible. I've just got to make sure it's not to his detriment. It's been great to have him back around the group, though. He's such a positive person that he can only help and inspire the players around him.
Thank you. Lee, Scott and Dom, please. Lee?
Eddie, just on Anthony Gordon, obviously, the injury does coincide with a lot of transfer speculation at the minute. I mean, putting Anthony Gordon aside, you wouldn't accept a culture where players are picking and choosing games where they're involved.
Anthony Gordon's injured, Lee. 100%. So for me, that's a non-question.
Scott?
Hi, Eddie. Eddie, there's clearly going to be, some pretty important meetings towards the end of the season, post-season, in terms of investment, where the club goes, recruitment, all that kind of things. To what extent do you think that the way that the team reacts in these next 5 games to what's been a difficult spell and a poor run might influence the thoughts of those around you, those above you, of just how big a change is needed this summer?
Yeah, I think you're always doing that. I think we're always looking at the team and trying to make assessments and judgments for the future. I think that's natural, whether you're in good period, bad period. But of course, yeah, if the team's not performing, then potentially there may be bigger changes in the summer than maybe previously first thought. I think you have to react to what you see, and that goes on a weekly basis, daily basis, behind the scenes in terms of attitude, commitment to the team. Yeah, and I think the players would expect that. I think they understand the role and the job that they're in. It's a high demand, high pressure role where you're constantly judged and people are making assessments over your future. So I think there's a responsibility in every moment to try and be at your best. As that responsibility falls on me as well, to make sure I'm delivering as the best I can for the players, for the staff, to create an environment that we can win in. So I think it goes with the territory. I think the players understand it.
Thanks, Scott. Sean?
Morning, Eddie. Against Bournemouth, none of the leadership group started the game. It felt like a bit of a deliberate shift, because of the Palace as well. You said about the team being youthful and dynamic, but it felt watching the game that there was nobody really taking the game by the scruff of the neck. There was a lack of leadership. Does that alter your thinking for the last 5 games, and was that a concern for the future that there wasn't that sort of leadership on the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, a lot can be made of the leadership group, and we're very proud of our leadership group and the players that are in it, and we believe in that as a source to try and inspire leaders, develop leaders, and for the younger players to want to try and aspire to be in that group. But I don't think we should make too much of if those guys aren't on the pitch, because we have to pick a team based on ability, or based on balance, based on, for me, I'll always pick a team regardless of individual players that we feel gives the team the best chance of winning. But ideally, there is a sprinkling of experience in every team, because you need that know-how, you need that voice. I would agree the team against Bournemouth didn't perform, so we'll review that and try and adjust things for the next game.
Thanks, Sean. Dominic, Kieran and Martin, please.
Morning, Eddie. Touched on it before, but Kieran Trippier recently came out and said it's the players not executing your clear instructions. When the instructions are clear, they're consistent, and the execution isn't there, does it feel like you're not being heard by the players?
No, I don't agree with that. With a view to not being heard by the players, I think it's very difficult to deliver, for the players. I think they're under extreme pressure. Everyone, I think, is committed to try and give their best performance and deliver whether it's coaches want, manager wants. I just feel we're not playing with confidence, and I think that affects everything. That affects decision making. That affects execution. Whereas you're doing it and you'll know from, I'm sure, your experiences in life, when you're confident and feeling good, you deliver it without thinking. When you're not, you overthink everything, and sometimes you can end up trying too hard. So I think the players are listening. We're not feeling as good as we can going into the game. So that's something that we're trying to help the players with. And that can only come from, in my opinion, from the training and repetition, and the feeling changes, and then through hard work, your luck changes. So that's been the focus this week, to try and help and support the players deliver better.
Thanks, Dom. Kieran?
Morning. There's a PIF delegation visiting next week. Do you see that as a positive, to have that face-to-face contact and talk about the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that happens regularly. So it's nothing out of the norm for us. Always like the chance to talk directly to the owners and to express things from my perspective. it's something we've always done, as I say, and I look forward to that next week.
Morning, Eddie. Has there been a disappointment that Nick Voltemade and Johan Wiese to a greater extent have been peripheral for periods this season?
I'm sure from their perspective, yes, definitely. I know they're both desperate to contribute and both desperate to give to the team and to do well. And of course, our intention bringing them to the football club was for that as well. For different reasons, totally different reasons. I think it's been difficult for them. Johan's through his injury, and there are signs, as I said last week, and he's trained much better again this week. So we're hopeful that he's on an upward trajectory and he will play a part. I know there's limited time this season, but hopefully he can show his worth for the future. For Nick, slightly different, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, it's been difficult for our nines because the strikers I feel have performed in recent weeks and have scored goals. So I can only, with the system that I pick, only play one of them. So that's been a challenge for Nick. But like with every player that's not playing, they have to show their worth in the training, and I think that's their shop window for me to pick them, is how they train, how they commit to the training, how much they're prepared to put individual disappointment to the side for the team to then come back fighting again. And it's a gradual process, but I believe in both players still. I've got no issue with either of them, and I think they've got unique qualities to offer the team, but it's got to be on merit and deserved.
Thanks, Martin. Gary, to finish, please.
Morning, Eddie. Just on the pair of them two as well, are you still confident that it hasn't quite worked this season, but next season the pair of them can fire Newcastle back to the lofty heights that you've achieved previously?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think they're both outstanding players. I don't in any way doubt their individual qualities. I think they'll both be better for this season's experience next season. And I always think any signing that we make, regardless of age, a season where they fully understand everything, they get used to the environment, they get used to their teammates, the location that they're living in. It's a big change for the players. Next season, I think we'll see all the new signings that we integrated this season, I think will be much better for the experience. And of course, then the intense focus shifts onto someone else who we may have signed in the summer. And I think that's a healthy thing for them as well, because you just go slightly more relaxed. And I think when you're more relaxed, you play better. So I believe in all those signings. I think they'll come good.